That alerts me to the whole concept of tales, how stories are not perfectly harmless. I have a kind of Mythbuster article in an online journal, and one of the, it was about Molly Pitcher, which is kind of low-hanging fruit there. But anyway, somebody writes back, but it's such a good story that does no harm to anybody. Why not just let it alone? And the question is, well, you can't just leave these stories alone, because the fact is they do harm to somebody. In that case, it does harm to the actual camp followers, the way the story is told. But in this case, you see all those other myths do harm. So what do we do with that? This is the question for this conference. What do we do with that as public historians? How do we deal with this? And so we have to look at just the basic distinction, which Plune suggested. I'm going to use slightly different terminology, between history and I call it heritage. Because history is about the past exclusively. You're talking, and the modalities are inquiry and understanding. Heritage is how we use the past and see it in the present. And it is more about cultural identity and affirmation. That's where it's going, heritage. And the past doesn't change. What happened, happened. And our job as historians is try to find out what that is, and the only way we can possibly do that is to totally forget everything that's happened, which to a large extent I try to do as I enter history, and so we can see what kind of choices they made, what was the world that they were looking like as they made the choices that they do, which created the events that did happen. That's what history is. Heritage is not fixed, it's malleable, it changes. You look at our heritage, Valley Forge, that's part of our heritage, right? Not for the first 25 years. People were totally ashamed of Valley Forge. It was actually a military secret at the time, and it brought out all the worst of the Revolutionary War, the disjoint between the soldiers and the civilian population, and the breakdown in supplies of Congress, and how people didn't make their requisitions to Congress, so on. It was really, and it was shameful, and the civilian population was kind of ashamed of the poor, bedraggled people who were the army. And yet 25 years later, there comes this idea of a suffering soldier, poor suffering soldier, and we start to get the Valley Forge myth.